this Unanet webinar. I am Jean Herbst, and helping me out today is Raul Quinones. Raul is a customer success manager here at Unanet. I'm a senior business consultant. I work with clients on their implementations, and we're delighted to have you with us for this webinar. Today we're going to focus on the DCAA audit and how Unanet software can help you be compliant with their requirements. Okay, without further ado, let's go ahead and get going on talking about the compliance with the DCAA requirements using Unanet. Okay, first some facts regarding DCAA compliance, and when I say DCAA, I am speaking of the Defense Contract Audit Agency, and that Unanet is a web-based software that helps organizations manage people and projects for improved profitability and their project performance, and also compliance to government regulations and reduced costs. Unanet has features and functions that directly support the requirements stated in the Automated Timekeeping System section of the DCAA requirements. Note that the DCAA requires that timekeeping process collectively, including the policies of your organization, your manual, your procedures, the totality of those items is what is required to be compliant. So Unanet software alone is not audited or certified for compliance, nor approved as DCAA compliant. But the Unanet product suite has been reviewed in conjunction with our customer policies and procedures by auditors and customer sites at our customer sites, and has been approved as supporting the DCAA requirements. So what is DCAA compliance? It means complying with the regulations regarding proper financial management. Government contractors must satisfy the DCAA, which is responsible for performing all audits for the Department of Defense and for some other organizations, and for providing accounting and financial advisory services to DoD components responsible for procurement and contract administration. So one thing that DCAA does is conducts surprise or random floor check audits, and that can happen as often as twice a year. And so these are designed to ensure a government contractor's employees are charging timesheets appropriately. DCAA wants to ensure, for example, that contracting employees are charging for their services daily and not once a month or less frequently, as that's part of their requirements. In a typical floor audit check, a DCAA official may talk to a number of your employees, let's say 20, look at 100 or more timesheets, and to make sure that the labor costs are reported accurately and in a timely fashion. So that's what they're trying to take care of when they do these floor checks. They also look for certified documentation when hours are reported later or modified, so that they look through that documentation to make sure that you're in compliance. And the system that you use must capture the reason why a timesheet changed, and the changes must be approved by a supervisor. So all of these are just parts of those DCAA requirements. So additionally, there are contract-specific audits that may occur, either pre or post-award, or at any time that the government agency customer or contracting officer decides a further investigation is warranted. So the DCAA performs a series of periodic audits of accounting system called Adequacy of Accounting Systems audits, and they're considered audits of the contractor's financial capabilities. And once a government contractor achieves a minimum revenue threshold around 50 million, the organization must submit to this audit approximately every 3 to 5 years in order to prove that it can allocate costs, document expenses, and support the more complex government contracting allocations required of larger organizations. So by using Unanet, you're preparing for these audits every minute of every day without any of your staff realizing that that's what they are doing. So our product provides features in the area of access, control, workflow, and contract support. Okay, first let's talk about access. So employees can only charge time to their own personal timesheet. So the Unanet system has username and password. You can require the length and requirements that need to be inside of that password, and all of that makes it secure that only they can get in and add time to their timesheet. Also, the employee can only charge time to projects or tasks that access has been granted to by the project manager or the administrator. The employee can access their authorized projects through their My Projects feature found on their timesheet. And also the Unanet project manager can restrict the number of hours that can be charged to the project or task. So that can help comply with what's been provided for in your contract. Through a global setting in Unanet, approvers can be restricted from editing a user's timesheet, and we're going to go through that a little bit later. DCAA requires that all changes to time recording have an audit trail with a change reason that can be standard or defined. The employee records, viewable and auditable, must include comments for any timesheet change. So that documentation that DCAA is looking for are features within the Unanet timesheet software. Okay, so in the area of control, you can ensure that no time is recorded on our direct projects, our contracts with the government, that you can say that time may not be recorded in advance, and you can set that at the project level, and I'll show that later. And then the cell level comment feature, requiring a comment for the time that you are entering, is also very useful in compliance, and that can also be set at the project specific level. You can substantiate what was accomplished for the time that's been reported. And then also we have automated scheduled email reminders that can be set up in the system to ensure the daily time entry they've been reminded about their daily time entry. So that controls employees from being delinquent in this area. And they can be set up for approvals and timesheet submit and all sorts of other reasons that you can send out these timesheet reminders. But specifically that daily reminder that, hey, you need to put your time in compliance with our contracts and with the DCAA is a key one for compliance. We also have some organizations have specific time reporting rules that some of our clients implement what is called a stored procedure for, and that can implement even further controls that your organization wants to put in place. And you would work with your customer success manager on that if there are specific controls beyond what is standard that your organization would like. And then also you want to, besides remind your employees that they need to do their timesheet, you also have a number of reports in Unanet, the timesheet status report being one of them, where you can review that your employees are in fact putting their time in their timesheets in the timely manner that you hope for. And then you can go ahead and maybe walk down to their desk if the reminder didn't work, and make sure that they comply with the requirements. Okay, so around workflow, how Unanet can help be DCAA compliant. So Unanet captures all the changes that were made in a timesheet and when the audit trail is set, and it's supported by comments that you make for the reason for the change. So the reasons can be predetermined from a list as well as an option able to put your own free-form text. So that's an optional organization-specific decision. But some organizations have only standard change reasons, and some allow for having free-form text as well. And at every step of the way, comments can be added in the approval workflow. Managers approve timesheets, project managers can approve timesheets, they can add comments, they can make their approval, and the entire process of approving the timesheets is expedited by having the process automated, and all of that's documented and available in reports. Unanet allows the user to make adjustments on their timesheet once they've been given permission, but also that will be added to the audit trail. Okay, so then contract support. So we can give assistance to contract support by supplying user-defined pay codes, and associated reports to track and report time against authorized earnings and leave categories. And we offer total time accounting options for calculating diluted effective cost rate, is what some people call that, project cost rate information. And there are project status reports for tracking whether your project's on budget and on schedule. And this is just general contract support through the reporting capabilities of Unanet. And there are many reporting options to help you track your profitability and compare actuals to budget. And these can be generated by general or project-specific labor categories as well. And finally, with our project notes feature, which in each project you can add notes, project managers can share project information and documents with others on the project team. Okay, so let's get down to some of the nitty-gritty of the required settings of your properties in your Unanet system in order to help you to be compliant with the DCAA requirements. So once you set these, it'll be working behind the scenes to help you stay compliant with those requirements. And these are the administrator property settings. You can find them when you click, if you're an administrator in the system, if you have that role, you can go to admin properties and see your settings. So the first one is enabling timesheet audit trail. So that turns on that feature where everything is documented and available in reporting, and every change to that timesheet and all comments are required, and it requires the change reason, etc. So that's the all-powerful enabling that audit trail. And then requiring timesheet approval is part of the DCAA timekeeping requirements. So that you would want to check that box to have that feature on. And also, in conjunction with that, in general, we want to do the same type of things for our expenses, for our other direct costs on our projects, for the expense reports our employees are submitting. So it's best practice to also require approval for expense reports. And then with regard to the requiring approvers to view details, there is the capability in Unanet to actually just approve a timesheet without actually having clicked in and seen the details in that timesheet. And in order to be DCAA compliant, you would not want to leave that unchecked. You want to check that. You want to make sure that manager had to look at that timesheet before they could approve it. And then a couple other settings that are used are that we wouldn't allow an end user to delete a timesheet. So you see this box is unchecked. And of course, it would not be compliant with DCAA requirements to allow an employee to self-approve. So we would not check that box. Earlier I talked about the change reasons. So when you have put on the audit trail, you then also want to go set up your change reasons. So if I came in today and put my 7 hours in my timesheet, and then I decided, oh no, I only did 6 hours, and I'd already saved those 7 hours. When I go to put that 6 hours in, it will pop up with the change reason, and these you as an employee will need to select from one of these change reasons that your organization has set up in the system. And then, as I said earlier, you additionally may enable them to have free-form text if their change reason isn't one of the predefined ones. And that's an organization-specific decision, whether you allow for the free-form text or not on the reason for the change. Another optional setting here is the requiring the user review, manager review, and project approver review when the timesheet has been changed by anybody else. Now, that is something that on a rare occasion, somebody's on leave and they have an alternate complete their timesheet for them or submit it, or an administrator needs to make a change, they're on leave and they need to make a change to the timesheet. Whatever, maybe it's a very rare occurrence. However, if it did happen, you set these properties here, and upon return to the Unanet system, that user, manager, or project approver would be prompted with a green box to make sure that they go and review the changes that were made to their timesheet, and thereby that is their kind of approval of the changes that have been made to their timesheet by making sure that they got a chance to look at it. Okay, and we would do that same type of requiring of review if that happened on our expense reports. Okay, and then some other properties in the system that are common to be set by our DCAA compliant companies using the Unanet software are preventing non-employees from being people that could be an alternate on a timesheet or an expense report, which seems like a fairly straightforward thing that you would want to have. Very rarely would you want a non-employee involved in being an alternate, or a non-manager being an alternate of the system for a manager level employee. Okay. Another thing to help us be compliant with DCAA is, and this is in the optional section, but I think a best practice is to have this checked, is that we should not allow our managers to edit the timesheets for the employees' timesheets that they approve. So best practice would be to not check that box if you're trying to be DCAA compliant. And again, the same goes for expense reports. Okay, so that was a lot of talking and slides, but I'd like to go into my demo system and show this all more in real time, what it's going to look like in your Unanet system. So let's take a look there. Okay, so this is kind of a busy screen. This is my demo system, so it looks, there's a lot going on. What I'd first like to start with is those admin properties I was talking about that help us to become DCAA compliant. So you would go into your system and go to admin, and then click on properties. And you would only have that if you were an administrator in the system. So some of you will not have this menu as an option. In the properties, a trick I really like to use in the properties is to click on the View All Properties setting And that brings up the entire list of all your many, many property settings in Unanet. And what works on this screen in pretty much every browser I've tried is I'm going to hit Control F for Find, and I want to find Audit. So that'll take me down into my system and see the Enable Timesheet Audit Trail, and I can see in my system that is set to true. And all of the Unanet properties have the ability to they're hyperlinked with more detail. So if you click on that, it will explain to you exactly what this property is taking care of. And again, I talked earlier about including the other audit trail change reason, and you can choose what that setting is. And again, you can click on it and it will explain to you what you're changing when you change that box. All right, and then again, you can look up require. So require timesheet approval, that's true. Require user review. Now they're not set in this particular system for DCAA compliance, but you would look through all of these properties and ensure that they're set to true for you. And there's a tip sheet. There's also, if you look up DCAA properties on the Knowledge Center, you can get to all of the items that you should be setting in your properties for compliance. Okay, so that's the properties. Okay, in the projects are a number of places that you can set to help your system be DCAA compliant. The first place is about access. So self-assign, and I do not have this box checked. Were I to have this box checked, anybody could charge to this project. So we want to control what projects people can charge to, and we wouldn't want to have that box checked. So I'm in my project in the Access tab. And then on the Time tab, we allow time reporting, but we do not want to check the box that allows future charges. So when I go on PTO, I might put my time in for tomorrow, today. So I would allow that future charge so that I could record my vacation for tomorrow. But on our government contracts, our direct work, our government employees our government clients, I should say, do not want us to allow future charges. So we don't want that one checked. And then finally here, require comments. So in this project, it is important for my client that I record comments on the work that I've done. And so when I check this box, each cell on my timesheet that I put an entry into, I also must add a comment about the work that was done. Okay. Other things in the project that are helping us to be compliant are the people assignments. So I have specific people assigned here, and only these people can charge to this. And so these people will see this project in their projects, my projects list on their timesheet, but other people won't see this project. So I've controlled who's charging, and I could also be putting in their budget. Other places to be in compliance with our contract and also our DCAA compliance is we can limit labor categories, and we can limit expense types to only those allowed types of charges on our project. Okay. So in the timesheet, as a user, you will experience these compliance items in different ways. So I'm going to add my timesheet here. I'm Chris Controller today. And as I use this drop-down box, you can see I don't have every single solitary project. I only have those projects to which I've been assigned. And then I only have those tasks on that project to which I've been assigned, in this particular case, because this project requires task reporting. And then I have the rules of that project. So if I try and put in 8 hours for tomorrow, and click on it, it says, sorry, you cannot enter time in advance for this. So there I've been compliant with my customer's requirements that I'm not allowed to charge in advance. But if I put my time in here for Monday's work and then I hit save, I get an error. This project requires comments for this particular date. So then I would come in and put my comments in and hit save. Okay. And we also have the audit trail on. So if I were to come in and change this to 6 hours now and hit save, up comes my audit trail. And I must enter a change reason for my modified entry. So that is another way that I'm being DCAA compliant. So I had an entry issue, data entry mistake. So these were predefined, and this particular instance of Unanet allows that free-form other as well. And that's, again, organization specific, whether you allow for free-form or if you just decide what their many change reasons could be. And then I hit save. And so that is the timesheet user's experience of the requirements of DCAA. All right. So another thing I talked about a little bit in the presentation before were our reminders that come to our employees. So in admin reminders, we have the opportunity to schedule a number of kinds of reminders. And, you know, first and foremost, to be compliant with DCAA, that daily timesheet minimum hour reminder can be very, very helpful in helping us to be compliant. And so you can set that and then schedule that to happen daily. In this case, you'd want this to run daily and check, and what it will do is go through the entire system and check anybody whose time has not been entered for that day, and the system sends them an email. And then you would schedule that, and that would continue to run throughout. And if somebody's time was compliant, they had entered their time, then they won't receive the email. So those reminders help us be compliant. And you can, again, go to help or to the Unanet Knowledge Center and look up reminders and get more information on how to schedule more reminders if you don't have those set in your system. Okay, so beyond our reminders, we have our approvals. And so, for example, if we look on my home dashboard, I am a manager. It's slow to come up because there's very many charts on this particular board, but I'm a manager, and so I have some approvals. I have an approval queue, and apparently I'm only an alternate manager right now, or there's none of my primary approvals waiting. But managers receive these approvals and make these approvals, and then they are documented in the system, and so that you can document that your people's timesheets have comments, changes have been documented, and that they've been approved. And so we can take a look at that through some reports. So my timesheet status report is the great report for using to see all of the things that have happened for a particular timesheet. This is the timesheet status report that we'd find on our reports dashboard. I'm going to go back and look at the criteria I set here because there's some criteria gems in this particular report that some clients aren't aware of. So I in this case, was looking for a specific employee, so I filtered my report for just the guy I wanted to look at. And then I decided a particular time period I wanted to look at his timesheet for. And the key, though, here is I've also chosen this detailed view. And I want to see my cell details. I want to see my approval history and my audit trail and the adjustment details, had there been any adjustments, those details. So this here will give you in one report all of those criteria of the DCAA being met in one timesheet, in one report. So it runs the report and you hit OK. It shows us the current summary status of this particular timesheet and then all of the details. So here's the timesheet, here are the cell details, and then the approval history. Okay. All right. And the same is true for our expense report details. So expense status report. So that was timesheet status. This is expense status report. Again, I've picked some criteria gems here that make this report more useful to me. And specifically, again, it's in that detail view. So I want to see my approval history, but I also, if I'm an expense approver, also if I ran this for a whole group of people, I could have all of their expense reports and their attachments all in one report. And then if you're choosing to print it, you can choose that option. So then again, when I run that report, it has my expense report details. Were there attachments, they'd be here, and then that all-important approval history. Yes, this expense report was approved by an appropriate manager before it was completed and locked. So that's the expense report status report. Okay, so just a few other areas I'd want to show here about DCAA compliance, or just in general our reports. Well, again, actually, this timesheet status chart is very, very important because this is us monitoring the policies that are important to us. So monitoring of timesheet use is important for our clients, and so to be able to say that I have this chart always on my desk, I come in every morning and review it, and this quickly I can click on my missing and say, okay, you people have got to get going on your time reporting. So knowing the status of where everybody is on their timesheet is important to our DCAA compliance. Okay, let's see, just a few other things I'd show here. The job summary report can show us that full cost accounting of our projects. So if I run this report here, I would first want to go back before. This is the project cost summary report on our reports dashboard. In this particular case, I did filter for just one project and a time period. I've decided that if there's any expenses at all, even ones that haven't been completed and approved, I'd like to see them. So those are the criteria I set here. And so then this report's going to show me my direct costs, my other direct costs, my indirect costs that I've set up in the system, and come to my full total cost, which is important to our DCAA, to our clients, and to our DCAA auditors, so that we have that access to that data about our cost objectives. Another way to look at this was a summary. This is a summary report. We also have available to our portfolio clients the periodic cost summary and status report, which is the JSR that we just looked at, but in a periodic format, weekly, monthly, quarterly, what have you. So when I run this for content production, I now can look at it for August, July, August, and September. I can look for those months and have actuals and have more detail. Still having my indirects applied. Okay. It's very useful for our clients that are needing to be DCAA compliant. They also need these reports and find them very useful and helpful for their customers and for their management of their cost objectives, management of their project budgets, and budget to actuals, and finding the unallocated budget, backlog, etc. Okay. And just a couple other reports here that you might find useful if you're trying to be working in your system and you want to find useful reports, is that we can run our reports. I like the actual summary report as a very helpful report. And the actual summary report can be run by project or by person. So first let's look at it by project. And I see here that I have a number of projects and who's worked on that project. So then it shows me who's worked on that project. My actual summary report, my people actual summary report, is going to show me a number of people and what projects they have worked on. So that's that axis change there. One's looking at lots of projects and what people worked on them, and this one is looking at the people and the many projects they worked on. Okay, that kind of wraps up where I am today. What do we have any questions, Raul?
Hi, Jean. Yes, we do. Let's see, where do we begin? All right, so here's a question from Phil. Is it possible for the timekeeping feature require comments on the timesheet only when the user enters time after the business day, adding a trail to the user when they've entered time late?
Okay. You know, that it is specifically not a feature in Unanet to record the time of time entry, because that is not a requirement of DCAA compliance, and it has been more desired by those of our clients who are DCAA compliant that we don't record the time than that we do. So it is specifically not a feature of Unanet to record the exact time of time entry.
Okay, great. Let's see, a couple people asked if we will be sending out today's presentations, and we will. After this presentation is over, we will be sending the PowerPoint presentation in addition to the DCAA tip sheet, so that will be coming to everyone who's attending. There's a question here on the character limit on the comment field on the time entry screen.
Okay, I like to say small novel, but there is really there is a character limit, and we could find that in the help.
I went there, Jean, just
did you look?
Yeah, I did look, so I wanted to help you out there. So it's 2,000 characters.
Yes, 2,000. So that'd be awfully verbose if they are beyond that. So hopefully that can encapsulate their days, the summary of their day's work in 2,000 characters. Thanks, Raul.
No problem. Okay, so there's a question here. Are there any reports or functions that can be run as PWA, Project Work Authorization Form, easily that would be approved by DCAA?
You know, I'm not familiar, and you know, full disclosure, I used to work in an organization that had contracts for which we needed to be DCAA compliant, and I used Unanet there, and I am not familiar with that PWA report. I will, and maybe this doesn't answer your need, I will show you the report that comes to mind when you talk about that, which is the Unanet schedule details. And you can do a schedule details either for the project, so who's scheduled on this project, or for the person, what are the different projects that people are scheduled on. So in the schedule details report, I don't know that that'll come up. It won't. I need percentage. Schedule details report for, I don't know, the current year. Calendar current year. Let's see if there's anybody scheduled, hopefully. So here's what would be scheduled, budget, actuals, variance. So I'm not sure that that would help you, but I do know a number of our government contracting clients do utilize this schedule details report.
And we can also, the CAM team can also follow up with
Sure.
their customers as well
Absolutely.
to follow up on that one as well. Okay, let's see here. This one's for timesheets. It says, where do you turn on the eyeglasses function in timesheet entry? My users used to have it, but they don't see it anymore. So it's just to show the remaining budget of hours on a project, etc.
That's a good question. I don't recall. That sounds like something that's rare. So the question refers to the fact that when this user's employees come in, they're not seeing these eyeglasses, and that's the view project and enter ETC information. We're going to have customer success get back to you on that, and I'm going to say my guess would be that it's a property setting that it must be very rare because I haven't ever seen that myself. Have you, Raul, run across that?
Not recently. I thought something early on. It might have been a role maybe that's changed, but we can research and follow up on that one as well. Yeah. Let's see where.
I've never heard that one. You stumped me. Good job.
All right. So let's see. We have a few more minutes. Let's see if we can get a couple more in. Where in the reports is the project and people actuals? I see periodic, but it looks different than what was shown.
Okay. So where is the
project?
Okay, so you're in your actuals. Okay, so here's project actuals and people actuals in the periodic, but I was showing the actual summary report. So this is, and if truth be told, the actual summary report is my very favorite report on either axis, either the people one or the project one. And the reason I like it so very much is besides deciding I only want to look at projects for one division or one customer, there just are a multitude of ways to look at this report. So showing rates or not showing rates, showing pay codes, labor, people. You can do it as detailed as you want. You can list all the tasks. You can list tasks in a rolled up way. So I don't know if that's the report you were looking for, but it was the actual summary report that I was showing both from project and from people.
Okay. All right, so in regards to the eyeglasses on the timesheet, I want to kind of answer it. It is a property setting, and if you look for a setting that says allow entering ETC information, that should turn it on.
Well, let's do this, ETC. There it is. So it is under edit settings, under time. So time, go to the left menu, time, edit settings, and it's right there under validation options.
And thanks to one of our customers, Josh, who sent that over the course.
And folks, another thing about properties that I like to let people know, particularly because you said that your users had that capability and then they no longer did, our properties have an audit trail. So you could actually go read through your audit trail and see the date that was changed and who changed it. And that may just be a training opportunity for you that somebody changed that and didn't necessarily mean to.
Awesome. Let's see. All right, we still have a couple more minutes. See if we can get a couple more in here. Let's see. There's a question here that says, does DCAA not look into indirect cost accumulation and indirect cost calculation?
They sure do. But so this particular webinar is to be talking about just your compliance with the timekeeping, and we kind of threw in expense reporting kind of requirements of DCAA. But some of those reports I showed, the job summary report and the project cost summary report, do show reporting using our provisional rates or our actual rates. And then were you to utilize it's your accounting system, however, that is accumulating your indirect costs, and some other system likely, or perhaps your accounting system that is calculating your indirect rates. And so Unanet, as I'm sure hopefully most of you know, does have financials, and we do have cost pool. Obviously, in the financials, you accumulate your indirect costs, and we do have cost pool calculations in Unanet financials to comply exactly specifically with the DCAA requirements that you're referring to.